Approaching women can feel like you're stepping into a high-stakes game where the odds seem to be severely stacked against you. But what if I told you that with the right strategy and the right mindset, you can turn those odds into your favor? So today, what I'm going to be diving into is some elements of game theory, which is going to help us create a powerful framework using economics, psychology, and even warfare to help you win your game of dating. Okay? Now, first of all, what is game theory and how can that help you approach women with confidence? Well, game theory is about making decisions in competitive situations. And honestly, guys, dating is no different. It's gonna be one of the hardest competitive situations that we can ever go in, which is approaching women and being in some very difficult social situations that really test us and kind of push us as much as we possibly can socially. Game theory is about creating strategic frameworks where every move that you make has a ripple effect on either your success or your failure. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to talk about with game theory is the payoff matrix. Okay? The first step in understanding your payoff matrix is think of every interaction with a woman is that you have two possible potential outcomes. You can approach and either it goes really well, or you can approach and it doesn't. Those are your two options, okay? There's no in between. It either goes well or it either doesn't. Kind of a 50-50 split if you break it down to just its bare basic numbers. However, if you don't approach, you miss out completely on that opportunity, okay? So here's the thing, not approaching is a guaranteed loss. So the only way for you to win is to make an actionable step. Now, the fear of rejection should be a lot smaller than the fear of regret and never trying, okay? If your fear of rejection is smaller than your fear of regret, then you're going to be on a winning streak here. Because when you see a woman that you're interested in and you apply this payoff matrix of if I go for it, it goes well. If I go for it, it doesn't. But if you don't go for it, you've never made that choice and you're going to sit with regret. That's probably going to help you guide along something that can lead to potentially life-changing decisions. So that's the first thing, is understanding that payoff matrix. Now, the other thing in game theory is it teaches us to play the long game, okay? You see, in dating, it's not about winning one single interaction. It's about winning over time. And game theory tells us that the key to long-term success is building trust with the other players, okay? So what does that mean for dating? Well, I want you to think of a friend who has a partner and their story of how they first got together. The girl will probably say, he was really nervous and I didn't like him at first. In fact, the first impression, I really didn't think anything of this guy. However, over time, he won me over and the positives started to outweigh the negatives. This is the power of playing the long game. Now, obviously, this doesn't work for every interaction, but I want you to keep that in mind, that if your initial interaction fails, but you know you're going to see them again, maybe this is someone at work or in a social situation that you see each other quite a lot, you have the opportunity to utilize each interaction and build up your stats over time to make yourself seem like a more viable partner for her. You don't need to go in for one extreme seduction. You have the opportunity to utilize that long game and win her over time. And trust me, guys, this is a very powerful technique, because over time you will be building much longer, deeper trust that will be feeling more authentic to yourself and to her. And it allows you the opportunity to see whether she is someone that you want to invest in. Because after all, it's not just about her liking you, it's about you liking her when it comes to long-term dating. So utilize this time fully for both ways. You can kind of show that you are worth her time, but also you need to see whether she is worth your time. And that moves on perfectly to the next thing of game theory, which teaches us the Nash equilibrium, okay? Now, in game theory, Nash equilibrium is where both players reach balance, where neither has anything to gain by changing their strategy. So in dating terms, this means that you have both shown enough confidence, authenticity, and trust in each other that you don't feel the need to look elsewhere. She won't feel the need to look elsewhere because she's going to realize that you're already an ideal partner for her. And you won't need to look elsewhere because she has shown that she is an ideal partner for you. Okay? And the Nash equilibrium is something that's going to be created over time as well. So this is one of those principles that we can utilize for a much longer and deeper lasting connection and relationship. Now, one of the most successful strategies in game theory is called tit for tat, okay? Now, we've all kind of heard this principle before that, you know, like an eye for an eye or a mirroring effect of another person's energy. And I think that works really well for a more playful way of building rapport. Essentially, you kind of need to think that it's training a dog or a child, which sounds kind of nasty to some degree, but if someone's behaving badly, you behave badly back to them. If they're behaving nicely, you behave nicely back to them. And you're creating this mirroring effect because women will test us and they're going to give little teases and they're going to try and poke and prod us. And we need to reflect that energy back. So if someone's behaving badly, you can't just say, oh yes, I'll do everything for you, because then we'll just become a pushover. And even in game theory, being a pushover leads to failure for strategies over time, okay? It's kind of like trying to gain points off of each other, of, let's say, points of dopamine hits. Well, if someone's behaving badly, you can't just take that negative energy and give them a dopamine hit. You need to smack them back with some negative energy and kind of say, hey, you can't behave like this, otherwise I'm going to behave the same way. And it teaches each other how to behave correctly in these sort of dichotomies that we're trying to create when we're looking for a partner. So the tit-for-tat principle is what I like to think of as a mirroring effect. You can also kind of think of it as a little bit like push and pull method or cat string theory. It's just a little bit of a fun one, okay? So I want you to kind of utilize that, but in a respectful way, okay? Don't ever go like overboard with it. You need to be subtle with these interactions because they are going to be playing with people's emotions, and it's a very powerful tactic. Now, this next element of game theory is called mitigating risk through diversification, okay? I'm going to say that again. Mitigating risk through diversification. So what game theory essentially tells us, and this is kind of an economic sort of thing, where you don't just have one stock in your portfolio, okay? Because you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, essentially. What you want to do is you want to have multiple stocks or multiple options. Essentially, we're boiling it down to approaching is a numbers game. But the more options that you have, the less risk you are taking. Because if you have more options, you have more chances of success. And let's say even like 10% of your approaches are successes. If you approached 10 people knowing that percentage, one of them is going to be a success. But you can't just rely on one chance of approaching and it being a success, because you're giving 100% effort to 100% of a single option, and if it goes down, you're going to fail. But you're going to mitigate the risk by spreading out your options. What I'm essentially boiling it down to is you need to be talking to more than one person because the psychology effect of it is going to boost up your confidence. The chances of success are going to elevate dramatically. And honestly, from just a fun vibe side, it's more fun to be talking to more than one person because you get to meet loads of different interesting people, and that's just on a social and self-development side, which I think is very important. Now guys, if you found any of this valuable, I found it very interesting diving into game theory and seeing that even maths, economics, and psychology throughout this study really does reflect what it's like out there in the dating world. And I think it was a good way to also just kind of say, hey, it's not gonna be too bad of a risk if you just go for it, because it's more of a risk if you don't go for it because you're just gonna be sat there with regret. You have a 50-50 chance. What's the worst that could happen, okay? As long as you approach people correctly and respectfully with a fun vibe, then the worst that's gonna happen is she's gonna say no or she's got a boyfriend. But if you don't go for it, then you're never gonna win. Now guys, like, subscribe, comment if you found any value or if you relate to anything that I said today. Send it to anyone that you feel that needs that boost to say, hey, even mathematics tells you that you should be approaching people. Stop just sitting by the sidelines when you should be really going out there because the odds are in your favor, guys. Anyway, until next time, keep on seducing.